And right now we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Scarlet Fu, taking you through to the closing bell with a global simulcast. Massar and Tim Stenovec join us now from the radio booth. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, including our partnership with YouTube. It was 61.44. That was the high on the S&P 500 back in February. As of right now, Massar, don't jinx it. The S&P is trading above it.
No, it just went below it. So it's like, we're right there. We're right there. Don't blame me. Don't blame me. But listen, we've been fixated, right? But it's pretty interesting to see quite a rally underway. And investors seem to be pretty enthusiastic. And there's some expectations of some Fed rate cuts. So maybe that's helping out a little bit.
Yeah, 2 decimal places is where things go in our data. So we could still be at a record even if we are at 61.44, depending on the decimal places. You know, I asked this question to Eric Weiner earlier, who covers markets for our Equities Americas team. And he's essentially saying something that I think Scarlett and you said earlier this week, which is that everyone's betting that this 90-day pause that expires on July 9th gets extended by a significant period of time, because what is not priced in are those tariffs going back up in just a few days.
Absolutely. And of course, we got the headline just moments ago that the Treasury will exclude U.S. companies from some taxes imposed by other countries. That's the deal with the G7 in exchange for removing the revenge tax bill from President Trump's one big, beautiful bill. That seemed to be the impetus for the last minute rally.
It gets to the idea, though, too, of how many loose ends are out there. You mentioned trade. Obviously, we're talking about this budget bill, which still has to be addressed. And then there's still the geopolitical issues, but certainly not as much chaos and uncertainty as we had a couple of months ago. And that, of course, might be a big part of the reason why we've continued to see such strength in U.S. financial markets, including on this Thursday afternoon. The S&P 500 has now rallied about 23% from those April lows back on April 8th. And it looks like today it's going to settle right around 61.44 and change. That would be below the all-time record high of 61.44.15. But I think folks will take it. A gain of 0.8% on the day. The Dow adding 400 points or 0.9%. The NASDAQ composite up a percentage point on the day. The NASDAQ 100, a fresh record high, up more than 200 points or 0.9%. And the Russell 2000, believe it or not, that's your outperformer, Massar, up more than 35 points or 1.7%.
Yeah, interesting to see, right, that outperformance, and maybe that reads, some expectations about the domestic economy. Having said that, if you dig into the S&P 500, we've seen more names in the index higher today. I don't know why, but my terminal's a little slow right now. There we go. 372 names to the upside, 130 to the downside.
Absolutely, and that is reflected in the IMAP as well, which looks at the S&P 500 and its 11 industry sectors. And you can see that the decliners here are really pretty small slices of the market. REITs are down about 0.6%. Consumer staples, a traditional haven, defensive group, down about 0.2%. The outperformers here, communication services up almost 1.8%. Energy and consumer discretionary each gaining more than 1%.
All right, everybody, let's get to some of the individual gainers. And first, ticker FUL. We're talking about HB Fuller.
What'd you say?
I said FUL.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey,
she would never
Come
to you, Romaine.
All right, that's stock. Wow, up almost 11% in today's session. Stock up after Citi maintained its neutral rating and $62 price target for the paints and coatings maker, noting better than expected volumes and strong engineering adhesive margins. Keep in mind that the company last night boosted earnings per share guidance for the full year that beat the average analyst estimate. So upbeat earnings, upbeat commentary. And so you've got HB Fuller, I'm not even going to say the ticker again, is definitely an outperformer. I'm going to go to Circle as well, because that one continues to kind of bounce around a little bit, but we did see some more outperformance. The stock rising in today's session, up another, 7.5% in today's session. That's after falling about 25% the 2 days prior. More players beginning to enter the stablecoin industry since the U.S. Senate passed stablecoin legislation. So we continue to see some interest in that one. There was also a note, our own Bloomberg Intelligence, Dick Shigera putting out a note and said, Circle's post IPO surge and fresh interest from JP Morgan, Walmart, and Amazon suggests that stablecoins, blockchain-based tokens tied to traditional currencies, are moving from the fringe into the financial mainstream. And so Circle certainly stands to benefit. And let me go to one more, NVIDIA, just because, we saw this one again among the largest market cap companies out there. That was courtesy of that 4% gain yesterday, adding another 0.5%. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. And that one has bounced quite a bit from those April lows, and it's now up about 15% this year, but I think it's up about 50, 60%? I had the number in front of me and I lost it.
I just add
April,
thanks
though.
for that, Carol.
You're very
I'm going to
welcome.
add a couple of honorable mentions. QuantumScape up 34%,
Yes.
and then we were watching Core Scientific. They closed up higher by 33% on the back of that speculation that CoreWeave might actually be interested in buying the company.
Okay.
A difficult day to find prominent decliners. I do want to start with Micron. We reported those numbers after the bell yesterday, down today by 1%. It was an outlook that wasn't quite rosy enough to keep that 2025 rally going, despite posting third quarter results and a fourth quarter forecast that did exceed estimates. It is still up around 49%, more than 49% so far this year. The company's high bandwidth memory sales are surging. The company, though, did not predict the kind of runaway growth that some investors were looking for. So we saw the stock decline today.
But it's like doubled since April 8th,
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty remarkable. But, you know, investors, they're looking for a lot right now. And look, the gains this year have been pretty amazing.
Well, the concern was, right, we just talked about that,
We
right?
did, yeah.
Yeah, about the prices and,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was listening.
That's okay.
Sorry, I'm a little distracted today.
Wow.
I was watching the S&P, seeing if it would close at a record high. Her mind's still on it.
Scarlett, man, I love you. Go ahead.
Okay. Scarlett mentioned REITs. Spot of red in the S&P 500 today. Equinix, the worst performer in the S&P 500 on
I
a
thought
percentage
Equinox,
basis.
right?
EQIX is, you guys see what I have to deal with daily? But it's fine. I mean, Scarlett, you kind of deal with the same thing, right? I don't know.
Romaine interrupted?
What?
No,
Yeah.
never.
How dare you?
It slumped as much as 14% a little earlier in the session, but it's off its worst levels of the day to close down 9.6%. That was its biggest intraday decline since March of 2020. The company's long-term outlook disappoints investors. It resulted in at least 2 downgrades. This news was yesterday, though. The downgrades were first provided, or the targets rather, were first provided to Analyst Day Wednesday, resulting in a 9.1% drop. And finally, well, this is now a micro cap. It used to be a small cap before today. Altimmune Inc. down 53%. A clinical stage biopharma company. Shares plunged. The company said a mid-stage trial for its experimental therapy for a fatty liver disease showed the drug was not significantly different from a placebo when treating fibrosis.
All right, let's take a look at where yields are. In fact, seeing continuing downdraft, particularly on the short end of the curve. This is the 8th straight day, actually, that we've seen the 2-year yield move lower, down about 7 basis points on the day. And we continue to talk about the steepening of that curve. You see that reflected in the 30-year yield, which, of course, only fell about 3 basis points, so about half of the move that we saw on the 2-year.
All right. Let's get to some stories that are definitely on our radar. And I don't know if you guys saw this one. It's now, I think, the 3rd most read story on the Bloomberg in the past 60 minutes. But there's something going on in the driverless car space because you have the New York Times coming out just within the last hour or so and saying that Uber is in talks to basically have its founder, Travis Kalanick, come back and help fund a self-driving car deal and essentially help them buy a autonomous vehicle startup as they continue to kind of watch Waymo gain momentum. But they also keep doing deals with Waymo.
Yeah, this is a little wild here. I mean, it's clear that Uber is concerned about the possibility of self-driving cars. This is nothing new, though. I mean, Uber had its own advanced technologies group. It was called ATG. And this was started under Travis Kalanick before he was ousted as CEO years ago, and Dara Khosrowshahi took his place. Khosrowshahi sold the ATG group to Aurora Innovation back in December of 2020.
Yeah.
So it's like things have really kind of gone full circle here.
I can't wait to see the follow-up movie that describes how this all came together. Who
If it
reached out to
happens,
who
if
first,
it happens, right?
That's
How
really
does,
funny.
but I don't understand, like, if it's an autonomous vehicle, who's Travis Kalanick going to yell at?
There's always an engineer to be yelled at.
Too soon? Oh, sorry.
Too soon.
I'm not the one who yells at my Uber driver. I
Carol,
love
you
my Uber
mentioned
drivers.
Circle
There was
and
that video.
CoreWeave earlier.
There was the video. That's the video you're referring to.
Yeah, we got it.
All right, Scarlett's got something. Let's go on. Let's move on.
Carol, you mentioned Circle and CoreWeave earlier. Triple-digit increases for some of these companies that have recently gone public. It's led to the IPO class of 2025 showing some pretty impressive returns, a weighted average of about 53% gains here. And of course, that raises all kinds of questions about whether we're going to see more IPOs coming up because the returns have been pretty good.
That's a sign of a healthy market.
Yeah.
Or a sign, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, just speaking of the return of old folks back to their former companies, Marissa Mayer, remember her?
Yeah.
Yahoo.
Yeah.
Actually appointed to Starbucks as board. Also Ambassador Dambisa Moyo also getting appointed there as well. That's all, Carol.
Watching
Wrap it
people
up.
on the move. Thank
Yeah,
you so much,
sure
Romaine
thing.
Bostick.
Sure,
All right,
breaking news.
that is a wrap.